And welcome into this episode of Craze's Corner. We're going to keep it short and sweet here today. So we're going to get right into the news. We have some big injuries. We have first the Clyde Edwards-Helaire injury. He has been placed on IR. He could miss anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. Similar timeline with David Montgomery, who's also been placed on IR. Another running back injury we need to talk about is Saquon Barkley, who's currently week to week with a low ankle sprain. He was carted off of the field. So this is probably best case scenario for him and the Giants, as it wasn't too serious. Nothing was broken, so he should be back and he should be fully ready to go. And then we have some unfortunate news for Steelers fans, but we have Juju Smith has a possible season-ending shoulder injury, so he will be placed on IR. Luckily, they do still have Claypool and Deontay Johnson, but unfortunately for them, Juju will not be able to continue. He did just sign a 1 year, $8 million deal. So will he be back in the Steelers next year? Who knows? Where do you think Juju should go? Should he look to sign with a different team like the Chiefs or Ravens? Let us know using the Media app. The Media app is an amazing app that I use for my fantasy football leagues. I use for virtual press conferences. It's really, really good app. I suggest you check it out. It's on the App Store and Google Play. And now let's welcome in our guests, Will and Jeff. Thanks for joining.
What's happening, guys?
All right, now let's get right into it. So we're going to be talking about some guys today who are kind of on that roster bubble of your fantasy football leagues. Some of these guys are trending up, some of these guys are trending down, and we're going to let you know what we would do with them if we're in your situation. Mostly, we're going to be basing this off of 10 to 12 man leagues, as those are the most common. So we're going to start off with some running backs. We talked about the Saquon Barkley injury. So his clear backup when he went down was Devontae Booker, who actually played 88% of the snaps when Saquon was gone, and that includes the 9% Saquon had. So only 3% of the time was a back other than Devontae Booker and Saquon on the field, and to me that shows that he's obviously the most prepared. He's a veteran running back, and we all know that he can be decent. So if he was on your waiver wire, he's the guy I would have been looking to pick up. If he's still there and you definitely need a running back play, I think you can definitely plug him in play for the next week or two until Saquon comes back, because once Saquon comes back, I think his value's gone. But until then, he is a running back that I feel like you can be comfortable starting as long as they don't bring anyone else in, which I don't think they will because it's a short-term injury. What do you guys think about Devontae Booker? You guys okay to start him now that bye weeks are starting and everything?
Sure.
That was a
Why not?
Endorsement for him, Will. I'm looking at yes. I don't know about this week because they do play the Rams, although the Rams have been a little suspect. The one thing I just look at, I try to find out the truth of the timeline that these guys are going to be out. It's like they said they're trying to get Saquon back in 2 weeks. When I saw that picture of his ankle and that big bulge on the side of it, I was like, that doesn't look like he's going to be back in 2 weeks. So if you do need a, RB1, I think he would be. It doesn't seem like he's going to have any type of threat of a committee forming or anything like that. I know they do have a guy behind him. I believe he's a
Gary Brightwell.
Exactly. But no one that, would make me think that he's going to, take a large share from him. So I would roster him, especially if you need running back help. Definitely.
Yeah, I think Alfred Morris is still on the roster. And if he is, I think that's probably the biggest threat to taking away carries. But I think Booker's a better running back than Alfred Morris at this point in their career.
And he's got a lot of miles on him, Mr. Alfred Morris.
Yeah. I'm confident with Booker the next couple weeks while Saquon's out. But yeah, as you said, that bulge on the side of his ankle there, he's really, really lucky that it's just a low ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain or a broken ankle. So the Giants lucked out of that one, that's for sure.
Yeah,
let's move on to David Montgomery's backups. So that's the Darrel Williams, or no, not David Meltzer. The Khalil Herbert and Damien Williams show. Khalil Herbert actually out-snapped Damien Williams, but they did both have the same amount of carries. So this is kind of a situation where I don't really want either running back because Khalil Herbert did see the majority of the snaps, but they both had the same carries. And on the Bears offense, I don't think is that great. When Monty's there, for sure. Maybe in a dynasty type league, Khalil Herbert might be a guy to look at because he's still 23 years old, whereas Damien Williams has been around a little bit. I kind of thought Damien Williams would have that 60 to 70% snap rate. But obviously the Bears are comfortable with Herbert. I think it was 53 to 47% of the snap share or something like that. With Monty being out, I'm rolling with Khalil Herbert over Damien Williams. But I wouldn't want either of them unless you're in a super deep league. Are you guys leaning one way or the other? Or are you just trying to avoid both in this situation here?
Nope.
Will's avoiding both?
What is he going through the Joe Burrow treatment? With the
Can't talk.
Okay, just checking, man.
Yeah, two throat contusions in 1 week. I thought that was interesting. I never heard of a throat contusion before, and all of a sudden Joe Burrow and JOK had one. I'm like,
Yeah, neither.
NFL found a new word to play with.
Right. I did pick up Khalil Herbert easily in a couple of leagues because Damien Williams had that thigh contusion, I believe it was, or thigh bruise, they found out it was. But if you look at Khalil Herbert, he actually reminds me of David Montgomery. I mean, same type of frame, same running style. So I just took a flyer on him, man, and, went with him.
Yeah, I think that he's definitely got the higher upside of the two, because if one of them is going to see that 60 to 70% now, I think it's going to be Herbert just because he's younger. But Will, you want to chime in anything else other than you don't want either?
I'm waiting to get to the Chiefs discussion because that one.
The Chiefs discussion. Well, that is coming up next. We have the Darrel Williams and Jerrick McKinnon, with Clyde being out for at least 3 weeks, probably more. The snap share was 43% to 31% when Clyde went out in favor of Darrel Williams. But to me, I'm not super interested in either of them, and I think this is something that is controversial. But I think the Chiefs have shown time and time again that they want that committee, and I don't think either of them are going to get enough touches and important touches in a pass-heavy offense and a team where the defense is terrible. Patrick Mahomes he's Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, now Josh Gordon, who I absolutely love. I think they're going to see a majority of the targets, with I think negates from the running backs. But I'll let you guys chime in here. Obviously, I think Will disagreed with what I just said, so Will start off here.
The reason this one excites me is, I'm a big Jerrick McKinnon fan, and had he not got hurt with the 49ers, he'd be honestly a top 10 running back in the NFL because he can catch, he's great out of the backfield, and he runs like with violence. Like this, he's going to put yards. If he gets the ball in his hands, he's going to put yards up.
Yep.
But the real reason I'm excited about one of these two, not sure who. Andy Reid's always an issue. But I actually think they have a chance to become the number one running back if they put 3 good games together. So how often during the fantasy football season do you get a chance to maybe pick up a number one running back for the next 10 weeks? Because I'm not sure that Edwards-Helaire gets the spot back if one of these two is demonstrating it. So that of all the vacancies right now, you're kind of like who may be available on your waiver wire. These are both guys are available because no one had them. Mm-hmm. At least in any of my leagues, I haven't seen anybody that had rostered them. They were available this week, and they have a chance to be the long-term running back for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and McKinnon's still available in a lot of leagues after the waiver wire. So, like you said before, McKinnon was great, but he did have the injuries with the 49ers. Yeah. He did sign a big contract with them before he got hurt. So I think he's the better running back between the two. But like I said, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire easily gets the job back when he is healthy. That's just my opinion. I'm a little higher on Clyde than some other people. But what do you think, Jeff? Are you riding with one of them, both of them, neither of them?
This is the opposite. I'm riding with neither of them. It's not like Clyde Edwards-Helaire was, having huge weeks,
Mhm.
their defense is trash. So Mahomes is going to be throwing the ball to catch up. Their defense is horrible. Horrible.
Mhm.
So I believe for the rest of the season, man, looking at once they have to play the Chargers, it's going to be a shootout again. I'm just looking at everything's going to be shootouts, and I think that's going to kick out, the running game. I'm looking at maybe Jerrick McKinnon because I think he's a better receiver than Williams, but that's about it. But I think Mahomes is not going to be looking at dumping off the ball to guys out of the backfield. If they happen to get within the 5, hell, they're even shovel passing, whatever the hell you call it, to Kelsey all the time in the hill. So it's like they're just throwing these guys, out anyway. So I'm leaving them where they are.
Couple notes I would say on the Chiefs running back is I would love for them to bring in a guy like Marlon Mack. I think if they brought him in, he could be able to compete with Clyde going forward. But situation, Tyreek Hill in the backfield about 25% of the snaps, and just play the mismatches that way because he's fast, he can run. We've seen wide receivers successful in the running game like Cordell Patterson. So I'm the Chiefs, I might do that.
But that's interesting, Zach. You just made that observation. I wonder if maybe the sleeper running back is McCole Hardman.
Yeah. Because he could.
Right?
He
or more playing time if they put Tyreek in the backfield. And right, that's going to be an interesting development to watch because it'll be interesting to watch the snap counts because that might be a very innovative way to get McCole Hardman on the field at the same time as Tyreek Hill and the other wide receivers, right?
Yeah, especially if you can still have Josh Gordon and Travis Kelce in the game. I think Tyreek Hill is going to be more explosive, especially if you get him the ball on the outsides with pitches and stuff. We've seen guys like Curtis Samuel, Cordell Patterson, Ty Montgomery who've been able to make that switch. And I don't think Tyreek Hill really has to make the switch. Just some end arounds, whatever, because I think their running game is going to be stagnant, so they're going to need to do something to make up for it. But we'll see what they decide to do. We'll move on right now to the 49ers backfield situation right now. In particular, I want to talk about Trey Sermon, who was their third-round draft pick that they traded up to get. He played a total of 3% of the 49ers snaps against Arizona. And for a guy who's in an almost open backfield, to not be able to only play 3% of the snaps, I think is inexcusable. And I thought maybe Trey Sermon had the ability to be the number one running back on that team moving forward, and he was a guy I was kind of excited about. But after this week, I think he's a guy you're just going to leave on your waiver. Eventually, sure, he'll have a good game, but I'm staying away from any 49ers running back. And they've shown me time and time again, one guy this week, one guy the next week, one guy this week, one guy the next week. And you can't win that because you're always going to pick wrong, and that's the way it seems to be. Whoever you start is going to underperform, and whoever is on the waiver wire. Plus, with Jeff Wilson having the ability to come back off IR, I think he could possibly even be the number one running back. So if you have an IR slot that's empty, he's a guy I'd actually look for because he's got the familiarity. And when he had the opportunities last year and the year before, he was a touchdown machine. But are you guys dropping Trey Sermon, leaving him alone from now on? Anything to do with the other running backs in 49ers?
I have Trey on a couple of my teams, and I almost dropped him this week. I'm giving it one more week, but it's killing me. Well, they're on the bye week, right? San Francisco.
Yeah, they're on the bye, so you have to give it two more.
I'm just trying to see what – I don't know. It's a disappointment because that was one of the guys I was counting on later in my draft, and it's just – I don't know why. Look, he hasn't had bad numbers. So I don't know what is the problem with the coaching staff that they're not willing to put him in.
Yeah, I don't know. They seem to like their committee, but I'll let Jeff chime in here. What are your thoughts on Trey Sermon?
It's a mismatch. I wish he wouldn't have gone to the 49ers.
Yeah.
Just like his dad used to do, man. It's like a hot hand approach with like 6 or 7 running backs. You never know which guy is going to be the guy unless it's Raheem Mostert. And that's why, I never really pick him, but he's like the one I would pick, but you can only use him for maybe 2 or 3 weeks because he's going to get hurt after that.
Yeah.
And then it goes to this random cycle. Jeff Wilson Jr., JaMychal Hasty. It's just you never know from week to week. So I never deal with the 49ers running game, and I won't start now. And I'm a little bit mad because I think Trey Sermon would have gotten a better run with a different team. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and not to mention, if Trey Lance is quarterback later on, that's a whole nother issue. He's basically your quarterback and running back as well. That whole goal line thing where he almost got his neck broke. Hand the ball off, man.
Right.
Okay, I'm done. Or jump over the goal line. Don't try to put your head down.
Your head down.
I'm like, dude. I think Zach is frozen.
Zach might be frozen on it.
In just sheer
anger.
Unbelief. There he goes. I just saw a small movement.
Yeah,
there he goes. 2 movements.
There we go. I'm back. I'm back. Yeah.
All right. I thought we froze you.
Well, let's move on to another terrible backfield. The Ravens.
Just killing me.
The Ravens backfield. This backfield. Tyson Williams inactive, and then he's back, and Latavius Murray's the guy, and now he's maybe not the guy. Le'Veon Bell played a week, and then he's not on the active roster. Devonta Freeman. If I'm rostering any of these guys, it's Murray because I think he's got the lowest floor. But he's not a guy I'm really starting anywhere unless you absolutely have to. I'd rather start Devontae Booker. I'd rather start Khalil over Murray right now. But he's the guy I still think has the highest ceiling. Other than that, I'm not touching his backfield. Do you think Williams can make the comeback? Or are you just fully avoiding everything to do?
Fully avoiding everything because Lamar Jackson is the running back, but now he's actually starting to throw the ball, which is a scary thought as well.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To Mark Andrews all this time. Finally, I've been waiting. I've got Andrews on a number of my teams. I'm like, finally. You start to throw it to him, and finally Hollywood starts catching the ball.
Brown getting open.
So I'm like, maybe they're changing their whole thing about the running game now. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see. We'll move on to another running back who had a massive week. But he was disappointing before that. We're going to talk about Myles Gaskin. He had a huge week in a game where they were behind for most of it against the Buccaneers. So we got a lot of passing work. Tua is also going to be coming back, whether it's this week or the week after, and I think that bodes well for Gaskin because they have the connection. Mm-hmm. So he's a guy, if he's on your waiver wire, because I know he's in a couple of mine, look at him. If you've got an empty spot or a spot where you're kind of like, I don't know if I want this guy, I think Myles Gaskin is definitely still worth the stash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I think he can get back to that 12 to 15 points a week, especially with bye weeks that are starting up when Tua comes back. You're going to be able to plug and play him, especially in PPR because he's really good out of the backfield. You guys both believe that Gaskins will be able to make his comeback?
Yeah, of the list tonight, the running back we're talking about, he's the one. If I can get him, even for a good trade, I'm going to get him because I think his numbers are starting to be a little bit more consistent. If I was Miami after last week, I'd probably be thinking, where was this? What were we doing wrong? Because it was just opportunity, right? If you watch those highlights in some of the game, he had a hell of a game, and let's just hope the coaching staff there figures it out.
Yeah, I think he's by far the best running back on the team, but past couple weeks they just didn't seem to want to give him the work. Jeff, what are your thoughts on the Miami situation and Myles Gaskin?
I've got him in some of my leagues, and I was just like, okay, what do I do with him? It's like he's basically giving me pennies. I sit him this week, he explodes. So, just like what Will said, is it something with the coaching staff? What is going on? I understand they've got guys dropping left and right. You got Jacoby Brissett in there. You're just trying to, keep things together with some bubble gum and glue, and a paper clip, trying to MacGyver an offense here. but I'm like, he is the one holdover from last year. You're barely using Salvon Ahmed, you're not really using Malcolm Brown. What is going on with your running game when you know you got a dual threat with this guy here? So I don't know. I put that more on the coaches than on Gaskin. So if they finally figure out how to use him, then he would be a huge add, a huge gain if you're able to get him. Basically, if you're able to buy low in a lot of leagues, because I think now they're starting to be like, oh, okay, maybe we'll use him in this area,
Yeah, and I think
maybe we'll just start jumping off a little bit more.
The whole misuse of Gaskin comes with Flores being a Bill Belichick disciple, where they're kind of running back by committee all the time. So that's one thing that does concern me, is I'm not sure if that will change. We're going to move on to some wide receivers. Now we're going to start off with guys that back-to-back really good weeks for the New York Giants. Kadarius Toney. He has had some really good weeks coming off a 25-point week and half-point PPR. I know there's a lot of hype around him right now, but I am avoiding Kadarius Toney going forward. Sterling Shepard's coming back. Darius Slayton's coming back. And I think they both end up taking targets away from Toney, although he still emerged. I think Sterling Shepard is going to be Daniel Jones' favorite target once he gets back from the concussion and Sterling Shepard gets back from the hamstring. And Darius Slayton has been reliable for them as well. Kenny Galladay's still there, so I'm not really that interested in anyone other than Sterling Shepard in that wide receiver field. So if he's on your waiver wire, I would look at him because he did start off really hot this season. But I'm avoiding Kadarius Toney. What do you guys think? Are you guys buying the hype that the rookie's going to start to get more even with the guys coming back?
Wow. I'm buying all the Kadarius Toney stock I can get. Matter of fact, I bought them in a lot of my leagues. Actually, didn't buy them. I'm mad. In one of my leagues, I actually had him 3 weeks ago just because I was like, this dude's a first-round pick. I just got him to stash him and dropped him. And then somebody else picked him up right when he started going off. But I think they finally found that this kid can play because it's not what he does just catching the ball. It's what he does with the yards after the catch. This dude is electric. That's the only thing I kind of like about him a little bit more than Sterling Shepard. I think he does more with the ball in his hands than Shepard does. I think Slayton is a little bit more of the deep threat. But I think Jason Garrett is going to be like, I got a toy now. Let me just get him the ball. I think Joe Judge is going to say, hey, Garrett, get him the ball and let him do his thing.
That's more likely than Jason Garrett making a smart decision. So
exactly. I think it's going to be Judge telling him from the owner.
See, that's
get that kid the ball.
I like the kid. My problem is Red Jesus, Jason Garrett, and the that's what they used to call him here when he was head coach in Dallas. They called his nickname was Red Jesus. But the other problem I have is, look, I kind of like Daniel Jones, but I watched that game and his decision making is just not there, and it just concerns me. If everybody's healthy and everybody's on the field, I just don't know what Jones's decision making is going to be. Who's he going to throw the ball to? Is he going to feel pressure with the other guys to feed them? So I like him. It's a combination of quarterback and the offensive coordinator that makes me nervous as hell.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Let's move on to the guy who's going to be filling in for Juju. James Washington will look to move up to the wide receiver 3 in Pittsburgh, but that's not really a position I'm looking for. I'm staying away from that. I just want to see either of you. No, both it's avoiding. I know
in. That clock is stuck. It's not even chiming anymore.
There's not even up in all the leagues.
It's James Washington has had his chances to be the guy, and it's never worked out. And I think now Claypool coming back, just Deontay Johnson, Claypool, they're probably going to throw in more 2 tight end sets, I think, instead. So now you're going to have Firemouth and what's his name? Ebron. Exactly. And then you're able to still get the ball, dumping it off to Najee Harris. So
Najee Harris is great.
I think he's going to be the odd man out again. He really done anything to command the ball. To me,
no, he hasn't done that for me. And if he was that good, they would have. He would already made his way up the depth chart.
Yeah,
exactly.
With the two wide receivers already ahead of him, with Ben throwing the ball, I don't really think the wide receiver 3 position in Pittsburgh is going to have much fantasy value.
Right.
Let's move on to the San Francisco wide receiver who just disappointed everyone this season. And everyone was like, oh, maybe this guy is going to make his comeback. And the last 2 weeks, he's a total of 3 catches in 2 weeks. Brandon Aiyuk, he's found himself on the waiver wire in countless leagues. Until something changes, I think he's got to stay there. He's got the upside, but Debo's really emerged this season, which I love to see. And with the questions at quarterback, who's it going to be if Trey Lance is in there? They're going to be running the ball a little more. Can you really trust Trey Lance to feed Brandon Aiyuk? Probably not. With Jimmy Garoppolo coming back, the only thing I would mention is George Kittle is on IR. Mm-hmm. So if Jimmy is starting for them after their bye week, then maybe Aiyuk has a decent game because Jimmy's going to dish the ball out a little more than Trey Lance would if Trey Lance isn't healthy. But I don't really want to have any Aiyuk stocks. But if you need a wide receiver and you're confident, I think he will have a good game if Jimmy's just starting. But with Trey Lance, I'm avoiding him. Are you picking Brandon Aiyuk up off the waiver wire if he's sitting there?
Nope, because I'm calling him Brandon Aiyuk.
Mm-hmm.
Yuck. I don't want no parts of him.
But his coach called him out today. Hey, coach went public, said he needs to raise his game. That's never a good sign with a wide receiver.
Nope.
Never.
I wish somebody would come back on him. Maybe you should raise your play calling. How about that? Because your offense has not been looking stellar this season at all.
See, the problem is they should have traded for Kirk Cousins instead of Garoppolo. That's what they should have did.
Hey, yeah, Garoppolo was never the answer, and then trading up for Trey Lance really didn't make any sense.
Right.
Let's move on to the Cardinals. Number 2, number 3 wide receiver, whatever you want to call it, AJ Green. He had 6 targets for each of the first 4 weeks, and I know Jeff was high on AJ Green, but he only had 2 targets last week. He put up like 1.8 fantasy points. I wasn't too high on AJ Green with the injury history being that DeAndre Hopkins is still there. Kyler Murray obviously didn't have as great a game as he usually does. He was a fantasy bust, only had like 13 points. Max Williams is now on IR, so it should open up a little bit more targets. Chase Edmonds had a terrible game too because he was coming off an injury, and AJ Green still didn't find the targets. So I was leaving AJ Green on the waiver wire before. I am still leaving AJ Green on the waiver wire. I'll let Jeff. Jeff, are you keeping AJ Green on your roster for now? Are you dropping him?
Actually, I dropped him in a couple of leagues, man. I was a little bit disappointed. I don't know if it was the matchup. I don't know what it was. But again, it's one of those situations you don't know other than DeAndre Hopkins. You don't know where Kyler is going to go, between Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk, dumping it off to Chase Edmonds. You just don't know what's going to happen. And that leaves AJ Green out. I thought the continuous target share was going to keep happening. I was like, as long as he's getting 6 targets, I'll take that. At least I have it on my bench. But now to fall off like that, I was like, there's too many other guys. I actually picked up Amon St. Ra. There's no other receivers to throw to. So what's his name's got to throw to somebody other than Hawkinson. So why won't those targets go there? So we'll see.
Any thoughts on AJ Green, Will?
Nah. Nah.
Fair enough. Let's move on to my Panther, Robbie Anderson.
I have thoughts on this one.
He's a guy I thought you should stash. He's been on the field for so much of the Panthers' plays, 70 to 80%, which is pretty good. He had 7 targets last week, but he only caught 2 of them. I think 2 or 3, it wasn't great. He dropped a critical third or fourth down conversion near the end of the game. Sam Darnold was a little bit off, but it hit both of his hands and he dropped it. I think the connection's not there. Sam Darnold's been playing behind a terrible offensive line. The only guy who seems to be able to consistently get open is DJ Moore. And that seems to be Sam Darnold's favorite target. Christian McCaffrey will be back, which I think, again, negates from Robbie Anderson. If he was going to break out to me, it had to be while Christian McCaffrey wasn't there to build that connection back up with Darnold. I think it can happen throughout the season. But for me right now, I don't think it's going to happen for a bit. You can't feel comfortable putting him in your roster, in your starting roster. So for me, if I can't start him, what's the point of him being on my team? He's going to be on the waiver wire for me.
Yeah.
Let's see what you want to say, Will.
I had him in a lot of my leagues. I just thought I like Sam Darnold. I was like, hey, man, this is the type of wide receiver that, big body, can, do his thing. And it seems like they don't have any chemistry. So I'm hoping for him that maybe Carolina, there's other wide receivers that aren't having chemistry with their team. It might be a smart trade. And Carolina seems like they're willing to wheel and deal. You guys are making trades left and right. So, I would try to maybe move Anderson and see if I could get a wide receiver that may have a better fit with Darnold. I don't know. It's just weird to me because I don't think he's lost talent. I mean, I think you put him on.
He should fit well in the offense too because he's a good deep threat wide receiver with DJ Moore, who's a yak guy, and Terrace Marshall, who's a big body. Like the three of them should work really well together. Yeah. But Sam Darnold it's almost like when he looks at Robbie Anderson, he's seeing the ghost from the New York Jets, and that whole situation's coming back to him. He looks over DJ Moore, bright sunny skies, looks back at Robbie Anderson, and it's just not the same. Jeff, you dropping Robbie if he's on your team?
I am, man. I'm not even picking him up. He's on a couple of waiver wires, and I was like, nope, I'm staying away from that, man. Maybe I think it's just a bad juju from the Jets. I don't know. Yeah. But it makes no sense because I'm just thinking that this guy, him and DJ Moore, are going to tear it up. And the rookie, Terrace Marshall, I'm thinking he's just a cherry on top, But
they should fit so well together.
And now, I don't know what is happening to your line.
Yeah.
Our offensive line was never great.
Sam Darnold this week and almost lost because I played Sam Darnold this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our offensive line was never great, and they were terrible. Sam Darnold had 3 interceptions, 2 interceptions a week before. I think that we are getting Pat Elflein back. He's not great, but he's an upgrade over what we have currently. So I think that helps a little bit. Cam Irving should be back, so we can put Taylor Moton back at right tackle. So hopefully that helps a little bit as well. I'm not doing anything to do with Robbie Anderson right now. Like I said, I think he'll probably get picked up later on in the season because he will start to see it. But for right now, it's not there. And I just want to talk about one tight end real quick. Obviously, everyone knows Dalton Schultz, Dawson Knox. Everyone wants them on their team. But a guy who I think people are going to prematurely pick up is David Njoku, tight end number 2 for the Cleveland Browns. People still need to remember Austin Hooper's there. Obviously, Odell's there. Jarvis will be back. And I think that with Kareem Hunt out of the backfield, there's too loaded of a team that David Njoku won't see. He hasn't seen the consistent targets. So for me, he did have a huge week in a shootout against the Chargers, but I'm staying away from him unless you are in dire need. But I'd rather have Jared Cook and guys like that over David Njoku going forward. You guys, either of you looking at David Njoku as emerging as the tight end 1?
Actually, I was looking at him a couple of weeks ago when guys started to go down. I was like, Baker needs somebody else to throw to. And for all the good that Kevin Stefanski can do with that offense, they have really grossly mismanaged using this guy. I actually wanted, when he wanted to trade, I wanted him to go to the Seahawks.
I wanted him to go to the Panthers.
Man, I was like, this dude is a monster. And I was like, I cannot believe he's not even getting the targets. He's not even like in the game plan. And that's when they ended up getting Austin Hooper. I was like,
that was a mistake.
I was like, what are you doing? Yeah, this guy right here is a monster.
They overpaid for a guy they didn't need.
Exactly. And that's the thing with Cleveland. They're becoming that team that has an embarrassment of riches on both sides of the ball, but they can't put it together. You got all these guys on the defensive side, and they can't stop anybody. You got all these guys on the offensive side, but you just run the ball with the two guys. You might as well go ahead and keep going with what's working for you. But you got all these other guys that you just don't use. So it seems like it's just a waste. But
Hey, can you imagine Aaron Rodgers on this team?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like, are you talking about cementing your historical value in the NFL? Aaron, go to Cleveland next year and win them a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that would be
Brady's next chapter.
Not a bad thought.
After winning,
even Tom Brady in Cleveland would be.
Yeah.
Woo.
You could. I think, like I said, I've been a Baker guy. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that I would take over him right now to run that offense. But anyways, as I said, we're going to keep it short and sweet this week. So I want to thank you guys for joining again, and I want to thank everyone who watched. I hope you guys tune in again next week.
Thank you, Zach.
But we're out. Thank you.
All right, guys.